Ani indinawe maganadok, buju, megabo ogadajukwe indignikas, gawabag biginakag indunjaba, megazi indudem. I just greeted you in a traditional Anishinaabe greeting, and what I said was, good morning, all of my relatives. I am woman standing on the mountaintop. Valerie StPierre Smith is my English name. I am descended from White Earth, and I am Eagle Clan. And I come to you today as an avowed word nerd. I'm super nerdy when it comes to exploring what words actually mean, not just how we've defined them or translated them. Having had the blessing of learning some of my indigenous ancestors' language, I am exceptionally keen to know how the translation actually works. The roots of the story, the implications of the story, the word and what it means and what's behind it. And Camino was no different. When the word first presented itself to me, it really jumped out at me. And of course I thought, maybe it was because I've had a little familiarity with that word. I did, after all, live on a Camino when I lived in San Diego. Camino de la Reina, to be precise, the way of the queen. And it was a lovely street, I can tell you that. I don't know that it was royal by any relationship, but so I thought maybe I already knew what this meant. Word nerd that I am, though, I went ahead and looked it up anyway. And guess what I found out? You've heard a little bit so far. Camino, thoroughfare, road, path, track. Camino, course, way, route. Camino, period of travel, journey, way. Camino is also figurative, a way to proceed. And if that wasn't enough, Camino also means walk. Context, that's what matters when using the language. But way, path, walk. Way kept whispering to me, or shouting, depending on the day. Way stayed with me, so I decided to sit with way. Do you ever do that? Do you pause and just sit with words sometimes? How they look, the letters, how they're formed? Do you ever listen to the sound of their voice? The way they feel in your mouth or on your tongue, feeling how our lips move when we are trying to pronounce or enunciate them. Maybe how they pass through your throat, this physical form of resonance. Told you, word nerd. Camino, path, walk. Way, journey, walk. Path, way, says Camino. Isn't it interesting too that we always seem to hear them speak of movement? As motion, in motion, your way, my way, this way, that way, the way of the warrior, the artist's way. All of them seem to elicit movement. Over a road, a route of some kind, they speak of journey. But I also feel like there's something more. In listening to Camino, they inspired me to look back on my path, my way, on my walk through this world, when a story popped into my head. Once upon a time, a girl was on her way for sushi. It's Friday night and she is on her way to have sushi with a new friend, colleague, before heading out to a local symphony performance. Living in upstate New York, fresh out of grad school, a short train ride from the city, her Rolodex is filled with Broadway designers interested in working with her. She's working her first full-time teaching job with benefits. And living in the most adorable apartment in an old Victorian house. No matter what her mother says, it's adorable. And on that balmy evening, she's feeling rather fetching in her complete hand-me-up outfit consisting of cashmere coat, designer label sweater and slacks, and she has even styled her hair up into a chignon, French twist. She is on her way to living her dream, a beautiful dream that used to occupy her fantasies once upon a time, growing up as a mixed-race kid moving around the Midwest as part of the railroad. The one minor tweak is that costume design has supplanted the fashion design dreams, but that's a change she's good with. She's still on her way. Future bright, path wide open, although at this specific moment she is paused mid-journey at an annoyingly red light in the middle of this college town on a busy Friday night. And as you may begin to suspect, our heroine never makes it for sushi or the symphony. Instead, she's rear-ended right in the middle of town, staring embarrassedly at the passing cars as they slow down to peer at this fender melodrama unfolding on Main Street. She steps out of her little light sedan to survey the damage. Why embarrassed? What has she done wrong, you may wonder? Well, nothing really. She's merely stopped at the red light. The embarrassment is coming from seeing the faces of her students driving by and knowing that there will be some teasing come class Monday morning. After the brief interlude of getting out of her car to survey the scene, she decides to climb right back in, closes the door, and calls 911. And at some point, she calls the restaurant where her friend is waiting. At some point, the young lady whose Jeep Grand Cherokee is currently embedded in our heroine's trunk reverses it out and moves it into an adjacent parking lot. At some point, our girl decides to not move her car. At some point, a very kindly state trooper arrives. At some point, the state trooper approaches her in her vehicle and starts asking pertinent questions. And at some point, he decides she should stay there until the paramedics arrive. At this point in the journey, our girl has become very perplexed. She's only been rear-ended. She's sore, and she figures she will be for a little while. She did see it coming in the rearview mirror, after all. But some Tylenol, a couple of chiropractic visits, some time healing, and she'll be right as rain. Really, is calling the fire department and the ambulance necessary? Imagine her surprise and perhaps a little chagrin as the firefighters arrive and announce that she should not move. And they will have to extricate her, all 5'2", 100 pounds of her. Which they do, right into the street and immediately onto a backboard, and for good measure, strap her head and neck so they are immobilized in a brace. This is not the way this evening is supposed to go. Plus, this is gonna take forever. Wheeling her towards the ambulance, they too start peppering her with questions. And pro tip, by the way, research the closest emergency rooms to you before you need one. Then, no sooner is she loaded into the ambulance than she suffers her second embarrassment of the evening. She finds herself staring directly up into the face of one of her students. Apparently, not only is he a theater major, but he's an EMT as well. By now, our girl is getting very sleepy. She really just wants to go to bed. This whole ordeal has taken quite a while to work through, and she just wants to go home to her own bed. No, says the state trooper. Nope, say the volunteer firefighters. Nope, says her rescuer/student. Hey, in fact, stay with me, he also says. No sleeping just yet, he says. Maybe he says something else. Keep your eyes open, he said. There turn out to be a lot more nopes coupled with I don't knows over the next 5 or is it 6 hours. Time takes a strange turn while she is alone in the ER. There's a lot of isolation. Left alone, still strapped to that backboard with that neck brace on, and a whole lot of other things too. Like being cut out of her beautiful secondhand Ralph Lauren turtleneck sweater, like overflowing the bedpan because the nurse has ignored her for just a little too long. A convulsion, a seizure, sudden anti-seizure medications and IV drips, a plummeting heart rate, and crash pads. And yet still no sushi. The only symphony she hears bears a striking resemblance to machine bleeps and alarms and strange Latin words and squeaky wheels. Finally, there is a late night hospital admittance, and that means sleep, sort of. Sleep that is interrupted every hour for a vitals check, for a swelling check. It'll take 4 more days, snippets of conversations and questions, and sometimes outright demands, just to find out what is going on with her. The journey of finding out what is now happening involves new words. Whiplash, that one's familiar. Hip trauma, leg strain, ankle sprain, and then one she hasn't heard yet, traumatic brain injury. Not gonna lie, sometimes I think it should actually be called dramatic brain injury. Over the course of these 4 days, somewhere noodling around in our heroine's now damaged brain is the understanding that her path has changed. She has taken a sharp detour onto a temporary journey of healing and recovery. But as the journey wears on, it becomes glaringly apparent that it isn't actually temporary. It's permanent. And yes, this girl, once upon a time, is me. Was me, is now me. What follows becomes a long, drawn-out journey involving loads of new learning, various therapies, rehabilitations, and doctor's appointments. It involves finding the courage to climb behind the wheel of my car again. It includes startling realizations, I don't know if you know this, of how little we actually know about how our brains work, and also our amazing body's healing processes. During those first 6 months, when not shuttling to daily doctor's appointments, my path simply goes from my apartment bedroom to the front porch. That cute old Victorian house had a beautiful front porch and a single wicker chair. And all I had the energy to do was to sit in that chair and I would watch the traffic go by for hours, like a lava light, watching other people going on their way somewhere. Such a random and mundane event changes my path forever, including how I walk through this world. Our journey, our Camino. It's not about the journey. It's about being, becoming, existing without expectation and beyond constraints. It isn't just about the action or the movements anymore. My path continued to evolve in unexpected ways. I wound up losing my teaching job because tenure doesn't wait for 3 years of disability. And that Rolodex of contacts that I had, they had their own journeys that they had to attend to. I met my husband and decided running a marathon was a really good idea. And though my body started working again, my brain wasn't the same. It didn't work the same. I wasn't working the same. Numbers worked differently. Spatial relationships appeared differently. Really great things for an artist to have happen. Too much focus, attention, thinking, information, and my brain shuts down. Siesta, my word for afternoon rest, has become a required compensatory measure just for daily functioning. I did try to avoid it for years and power through because isn't that what we all do? We get stubborn. Yeah, it never ends well when I do that. Do any of you know what a frontal lobe shearing injury is? It's kind of fascinating. Remember when I said it's a dramatic brain injury? I didn't know until they told me it meant part of my brain got cut off. And it also meant that it wasn't gonna come back. Our brains do heal, but not in the way we're used to. And also, I wanted a really big scar. It's not that big, sadly. But it didn't come back. It did heal. Not the same way, and that's not the brain's way of healing. I had to get to know a new me while simultaneously grieving the loss of an old one. I was 27. I had just started figuring me out. But I call it the great course correction because I was on a totally different path at that time. One that was leading me to my dreams, but later I realized not necessarily to my life's work. A totally different path that was requiring a totally different way. And context matters. Way. Being. I finally realized that for me, Camino, or way, speaks less about the thoroughfare, the course, the period of travel. It's less about the smoothness or the roughness of the road, the direction, less about the route. It's less about the challenge of the terrain or even that inward journey that a soul takes when moving through the world. It speaks less to me about the motion and more about the way. Camino is way, path, walk. Speaks to me of our way of being. Our way of being is being. And our way of walking is to walk in beauty. To remember that beauty is medicine. So I say, miigwech, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking this journey with me and walking together with me always in beauty. And I wish you buen camino. Miigwech.